idea came from a November Writing Challenge in 2008, and the ebook was received with such acclaim that we now have the published paper version, which you will be signing later tonight downstairs. So please put your hands together and welcome to this.
Well, you all know me, so John, camera.
It's going.
It's going.
Yeah. Don't mind me.
Okay.
If not, everybody else has got theirs going.
You too, in the hour.
Yeah, I know. The wonders of the internet. So yeah, I'm Jennifer. Thank you everybody for coming so much. I really appreciate your support. This is really exciting for me. Like she said, I started Writing Divided for National Novel Writing Month in November 2008. And for those of you that don't know what that is, it's a challenge that I do every year. It's to write 50,000 words of a novel in a month, in 30 days. So it's pretty crazy, and it's a lot of fun. And the purpose is just to get the words out of your brain and onto the page, and just write that novel that everybody says, oh, someday I'm going to write a book. Well, now you can write it. So I wrote it in a month, and then I've worked on it, editing and rewriting and cutting and adding and editing some more off and on for 4 years. And I finally, last year, just got really serious and all right, I'm finally just going to do it, and just buckled down and got it done, and had some beta readers, got it edited, got an awesome cover design that I'm just so happy that it turned out so well. I had no idea what I was doing with any of this. I mean, I did everything pretty much myself except the cover. So I just thank you so much for being here. And so I'm gonna read a little bit, and then we'll do a Q&A, and then we'll do the signings. So just want to let you know, afterwards we are going to head down to Blueberry Hill. If you would like to join us, we have the Pac-Man room rented out, which sounds pretty awesome to me. So we'll have some appetizers and drinks, and my parents are extremely generous to say they're going to buy the first round of drinks, so thank you, Mom and Dad, and thank you for all your help and support and everything, and my husband John standing there in the back looking kind of scruffy, putting up with me sitting in my office working on this thing and ignoring him and the dogs, so just thank you. Alright, so I will, I'm going to read the first couple chapters, and then we'll do the Q&A. Chapter 1. Miss Ronan, I need you to help me find my daughter, and I've heard you're the best. Alexis Carmen pushed a photograph toward me across my office desk. A pretty young girl with strawberry hair that matched her mother's smiled out of the photo. Please, call me Elena. I wanted to put Miss Carmen at ease. Her brow furrowed, dark circles shadowed her honey brown eyes, making her porcelain skin look even paler. A strand of hair strayed from her neat ponytail, which she absently tucked behind her ear. Elena, Courtney ran away 2 weeks ago. Have you contacted the police, I asked? Yes, but because she is of legal age, they won't do anything. I reflected on the few years I had spent on the force and could imagine how frustrated Ms. Carmen must be. 18 is such an arbitrary age to be considered an adult. Some 18-year-olds are completely incapable of taking care of themselves. Others, like me when I was younger, are more mature than many in their 30s. How old is your daughter? 19. Her voice cracked, but not a single tear fell from her shining eyes. The police referred me to you, actually. They said very good things about your ability to solve a case. Do you work with them often? No, but I used to be a police officer. Why did you quit? I didn't like all the red tape. I'd rather get something done than fill out stacks of paperwork. I stood. Would you like some coffee, Miss Carmen? Miss. And yes, thank you. Black. The lack of sugar or cream matched the fit body beneath her slightly rumpled yet expensive-looking business suit. I poured 2 cups of black coffee and handed her one. Is there no Mr. Carmen, I asked? No, but why does that matter? She narrowed her eyes. Anything that can provide insight as to why your daughter might have run away can help. I'm sorry if it's a painful topic. I understand. I was always very focused on my education, but made one mistake that almost cost me my MBA. Do you have any idea how hard it is to complete graduate school while raising an infant? I can imagine. Do you resent that hardship your daughter caused you by her birth? I sipped my coffee and studied her reaction. Of course not. Miss Carmen straightened her shoulders and shook her head from side to side. I raised an eyebrow. I admit it wasn't easy, but I wouldn't give up my daughter. I love her. Do you have a good relationship with your daughter? I did for the most part, but then she started attending college. That's when the fighting began. What do you mean for the most part? I was very strict with Courtney, and she often resented me for that, but she used to confide in me. What did you fight over? I made note of the name of the college. Her degree. I wanted her to do something that would pay well, but she's always loved art. I know firsthand how important it is for a young woman to not have to rely on a man, and I don't want my daughter to struggle. I was an art major and ended up working fast food when I graduated. After a year, I went back to school for a business degree so I could make something of myself. I tried to tell her what I endured, tried to convince her to do better for herself, but she insisted in enrolling in the art program. And then she made new friends. What kind of friends? I expected her to mention alcohol or drugs. Freaks. I sat back in my chair, inadvertently putting more distance between myself and her. She quickly glanced at my metal-filled ears and the tattoos sneaking from the sleeve of my scarlet blouse. Forgive me, I mean Dobbs. I'm not used to, she stammered, looking down into her lap and biting her lower lip. I sighed, having mostly gotten used to remarks about my style long ago. Forget it. So you didn't like her friends? No, and she changed. She dyed her hair black, started wearing tons of dark makeup, dressed like a vampire. So you thought about that as well, I guess? Yes, she started skipping classes. Her artwork became darker, more sinister, and then she ran away. How do you know she ran away? Could she have been kidnapped? No, her clothes were gone as well as her art supplies. She finally took a sip of her coffee, holding the mug in both hands. Have you contacted the college? I have. Thankfully, I made her sign a waiver to let them release her information to me since she's over 18. They said she hasn't shown up to any classes in several weeks. I'm worried she's getting into drugs or something worse. Something worse? Yes, I overheard her mention something about a coven while she was on the phone with one of her new friends. I'm afraid she's getting into some kind of satanic cult or something. I don't understand what she meant. She gripped the mug so tightly, I feared she would break it. Did you hear her mention anything else that might help? Do you know any of her friends' names, where they live, or where she hung out? She was very secretive once we began fighting. I know one girl was named Miriam. Courtney's car had broken down. I made her work to pay for her own car and insurance. So this Miriam picked her up every day. I have no idea where they went, though. Can you describe Miriam? I only saw her from a distance in the car, so other than goth, not really. I'm sorry, I realize that's no help. She drove a Chevy Malibu that looked several years old. Black, of course. Miss Carmen paused, eyes closed. What else? I heard her talk about someone named Elizabeth. She seemed to idolize her. I paused while writing this down. Is there anything else? I can't think of anything. As much as we fought recently, I love my daughter. I want her back. Her face brightened with just a tiny bit of hope. I've heard that you've never given up or failed on a case. Can you find her? Never is a bit of an exaggeration, but I'm sure I can find your daughter, Miss Carmen. Try to relax. I stood, walked around the desk, then handed Miss Carmen a business card. If you think of anything else that might help, please call me anytime. I'll call you as soon as I find anything else. I'll warn you, the picture might not be much help. She looks completely different now, especially with all the makeup she wears. I nodded. I can't guarantee she'll come back home. As you discovered from the police, she's legally able to do what she wants, but I'll at least be able to tell you where she is so you'll know she's safe. She nodded, grasped my hand tightly, then left. Miss Carmen's comment about freaks almost made me refuse the case, but it was an easy one, and she had already written me a check twice the size a case like this usually cost. However, something nagged at my gut. Something told me this wouldn't be as easy as it sounded. Chapter 2. Pounding music vibrated through the bar stool on which I sat at the chapel, an old church converted into an 18-and-up goth club. The bar was separated from the dance floor by a wrought iron fence that could have belonged in the millionaire's yard rather than a club. Two distinct groups of people filled the club. The first was obviously out to live life to the fullest, some dancing alone, sweating, moving in their own world, others dancing with a member of the opposite or same sex, groping and grinding. How many had come with their dance partner, and how many were just there for the thrill of the night? The other group lounged on red velvet chairs and couches, drinking from goblets, perfectly posed, determined to give off just the exact vibe of and beauty and aloof dignity. I was a loner and didn't go out much, so doubted anyone there would know me. The bartender handed me another cranberry juice with a splash of tonic. I didn't drink. For one thing, alcohol and Zoloft don't mix. My past was less than enviable, and weekly therapy sessions hadn't done much good yet. Secondly, I'd done enough drinking and drugs in my teenage years, and enough stupid things because of that drinking, to make Satan weep. I didn't order this, I said, still sipping my first drink. Compliments of Vittorio. He said to get you another of whatever you were already drinking, she said, looking towards the balcony which had acted as the choir loft in its previous life. Vittorio? Is that his real name? I shouted to be heard over the music. Believe it or not, it is. Full-blooded Italian. Vittorio Santini. A tall man with long black hair watched me from the balcony. Is that him? The bartender nodded. After thanking her, I headed towards the balcony and introduced myself, and hopefully find something more about Courtney, Miriam, or Elizabeth. I wished for a more recent photo of Courtney and any of the other two girls. Goth as a description would not help me find them. At the local Starbucks, maybe, but not here. I had to start somewhere, though, and had learned to look at facial structures rather than make them over the years. The chapel's website clearly stated the balcony was off limits to general clubgoers, some sort of VIP thing, and the bouncer at the base of the stairs showed they were serious. Vittorio sent me a drink, and he cut me off with a wave of his arm, indicating for me to go upstairs, easier than I'd expected. At the top of the stairs, confidence firmly in place, I saw the black hair was his natural color. It had highlights you just can't get out of a bottle. Sitting on a red velvet couch, he was the center of attention. He faced away from me, so I surveyed the area. The crowd in the balcony belonged to the second group of clubgoers, looking like extras straight out of a vampire movie. They weren't vampires, obviously. No such thing existed, but they'd sure pass. Some even had fake fangs. The area was the size of a large living room. In back and to the right was a door with a sign that read restroom and the image signifying it was for men and women. To the left was an unmarked door. A broom closet, maybe? Vittorio turned and smiled at me. He was masculine in every way, yet his face managed to be beautiful. He was a god come to life, the most gorgeous, perfect creature ever to walk the face of the planet. Even that didn't do his beauty justice. I shook my head. This groupie behavior would do no good. Taking a deep breath, I walked over to him. His height sitting almost matched my 5'7" standing. I extended my hand, thankful the music wasn't as loud in the balcony so I didn't have to shout. I'm Elena. Thank you for the drink, but it really was unnecessary. He stood. Elena, such a beautiful name for a beautiful woman, and such confidence. At least I succeeded there. My insides turned to rubber as he enfolded my tiny hand in the strong warmth of his. He motioned to the woman sitting next to him, who got up and walked away, glaring at me. Please sit, Elena. Tell me about yourself. How does such a beauty find herself in our humble club? I would surely remember if you had been here before. He sounded anything but humble. My legs nearly collapsed, forcing me to accept the offer to sit. My steel-bone corset prevented me from slumping into the plush couch. I had never experienced true magic, but he certainly seemed to have an otherworldly power contained in all that beauty. I tried to calm myself with deep breaths. I never reacted to men this way. I needed to get a grip on myself, fast. I had a job to do. Well, I cleared my throat because my voice came out barely audible. I don't go out very often, but I didn't want to tell him I was a PI, so quickly thought up an easy lie. Kind of between jobs at the moment and needed to get out of the house. You have chosen a wonderful night to come out. It is my 40th birthday. Well, happy birthday, Vittorio. Where's your wife? Someone as gorgeous as he was either had to be married or too much of a playboy to ever settle down. I'm not married. I've not found a woman to hold my interest enough for a lifelong commitment, but perhaps that has changed tonight. He eyed me curiously, head slightly tilted to the side. Oh my word, this god was interested in me. My heart raced. He stared intently into my eyes, and I thought I would faint. A waitress dropping off a bottle of champagne momentarily distracted Vittorio. Again, I reminded myself of my job, wishing I could escape to the bathroom to pull myself together. Vittorio turned his attention back to me, glass of champagne in hand. Thank you, but I don't drink. I longed to accept the glass, to let the soothing effects of the alcohol overtake me. Stressful situations proved most challenging to my sobriety. And why is that, Mia Bella? I've done plenty of drinking to last several lifetimes. I'm done with it. That much drinking at your tender age? Tender age? How young do you think I am? 20? 25. You do not look a day over 21. Well, thanks. And anyway, I'm much happier when I have full control of my senses. But losing control can be such a magical experience. He lightly ran his fingertips from the back of my hand up my arm, finishing the touch at my neck. I shivered and my throat went dry. He smiled, a glint of satisfaction in his eyes. What can I offer you to drink? I cleared my throat, but my voice was still hoarse as I replied, just water, please. I hadn't even noticed my glass was empty. As you wish. He nodded to the waitress, who was waiting for his command. That's the only way I can describe it. She scurried off, abandoning me to Vittorio. Thankfully, he turned away from me for a few minutes to grace his other guests with his entrancing conversation skills. It was enough to let me regain some composure yet again. I was exhausted from the emotion racing through my body. What was wrong with me? I studied the people around me, hoping one might be Courtney, but I saw no one with her facial structure. I sensed this was a very private crowd, and that flashing her picture around would gain me nothing but silence. All too soon, the waitress returned with my water, and Vittorio again directed his gaze to me. I couldn't handle any more of my raging hormones and fished my phone out of the purse to check the time. It was after midnight. I really should get going. May I walk you to your car? Oh boy, I really didn't trust myself with him alone. Somehow I sensed he would not take advantage of me, but it was myself I didn't trust. Thank you for the offer, but I'll be fine. I stood, as did Vittorio. He was more than half a foot taller than me in my high-heeled boots. I hope I shall see you again soon, Elena. He reached a hand toward my face and brushed it down my arm, gently clasping my hand in his. He kissed the back of my hand, turning my body to rubber again. I expect you will, I said breathlessly, and fled down the stairs. Okay, so does anybody have any questions?
Did you have the idea for the story for a while, and then you just put bits and pieces together?
I'd had, probably a year or two before I started writing it, I had a dream one night, and
Oh boy.
yeah, and it was just kind of this vague idea about a girl that went undercover to investigate a coven. That's all I knew. That's all I had when I started writing this. I didn't know who she was, or what the coven was doing, or why she was investigating them, or anything like that. And it started out that she was a police officer, and I just realized that I don't know anything about being a police officer, and that was just going to require way, way too much research to get everything right. So I changed it to a private investigator, and kind of changed things up a little. So it just kind of, it just flowed. I didn't have any idea, and it just came out.
Pretty good.
Yeah, it was pretty fun.
What changed the most from your rough draft to the final, or do you remember?
Well, changing her from a police officer to a PI was definitely a pretty big change. Gosh, I cut a lot out. It was, when I finished it, it was 93,000 words, and in its current incarnation, it's just under 70,000. So, yeah, there were some scenes, a lot of scenes that just weren't necessary, that just, spewed out when I was writing it and didn't really add anything or even maybe make much sense.
Are there any of those deleted scenes that you're going to put on your website at some point, or?
I hadn't thought about it, but that's an interesting idea. I'll have to look through them, and that would be fun. I'll have to see what I can find.
A lot of, a lot of authors kind of write a series. They have a hero or heroine, and they kind of base their next book off of the continuing thing. Are there thoughts to using this particular heroine out into the future for future books, or do you think you may go with a new person?
Absolutely. I'm already working on a sequel to this one. I finished writing this, and